G'day everyone, James Petrie from NextOil. Look, NextOil has dramatically changed the future of plant oil production. We've greatly intensified the amount of oil that we can produce from plants. And I think this is tremendously exciting for Australian agriculture, for global agriculture, because what it means is that we'll now be able to address the increasing requirement for food oil that the growing global population is putting on us, and also the expansion of the middle classes globally, in the larger countries especially. The demand for food oil is going through the roof. And what it also means, the scale at which we can now increase production, lets us start to address some of these other oil markets, particularly the sort of energy sectors which are locked into the use of liquid fuel for the foreseeable future, such as aviation. And the reason that we can start to address this is because so far the cost of plant oil has just been too high. So how have we done it? Well, here you can see on the left three typical oilseed crops. You've got soybean, sunflower and canola. And here is where they produce their oil. It's in the seed. And what our change, or what our method has been, is to switch on those seed oil pathways in the rest of the plant as well. And it looks something like this. So now we have 30–40% accumulation of oil in not only the seeds, as you would get in canola, but also in the leaf and in the stem of those plants as well. And this means that the intensification of the oil production is just through the roof. We can produce phenomenal amounts of oil now. This is a space that we've worked hard to protect, this sort of increase in scale at which we can produce plant oil. And our focus in terms of protection has mostly been intellectual property. We've now got granted claims in the US, both around the method by which we make these changes, and also the downstream products and uses for the oil, both in the food and industrial markets. So the reason that we have been able to accomplish all of this is because we have a really strong team. So we have a strong team not only in the science, the deep science which underpins this sort of technology, we also have a really strong leadership team and a very experienced team around delivering these sort of complex new crop products. This shows a few of our track record achievements, and one of them Andrew actually touched on earlier when he spoke about safflower. So this super high oleic oil safflower in the middle, that's one of ours. This was originally a Cyro invention, which is now licensed to Go Resources. Similarly, some of you may have heard recently New Farm or New Seed, the subsidiary, did a press release around the global deregulation of their omega-3 or fish oil type canola. This was our team as well. So this sort of early science right through to market, including the deregulation of this GM crop, which is a very complex area, is something that we've done several times before. NextOil is the latest in our list of these sort of complex project managements. Now, what I want to do is give you a sense of the scale of what this could mean for agriculture. So here you can see a map of Australia with Tasmania omitted because they don't allow the growth of GM crops. And what you can see is the amount, actually there just wasn't room on the slide, but what you can see here is the amount of land, obviously spread across the country, that is sown out to wheat and canola. Now, if we want to take a real life example, let's say that we wanted to help Qantas meet their 20% goal for biofuel. The amount of our NextOil crop that we would have to sow out to meet 20% of their annual global fuel use is that much. That is not very much land at all, and yet that would generate $500 million worth of oil. If we were to expand the production of our NextOil crop up to something like canola, we'd be in excess of $5, even $6 billion per annum. So we've done the technology. We have a very good patent protection around the technology. We have field trials in the ground in the States at the moment, and we have crop partners lined up for specific pipeline crops that we've already identified. We are doing a little more work on downstream extraction methods, and we're really keen to talk to strategic partners who want to see this sort of technology get to market and who want to be a part of that journey. It will unfortunately be a fairly long journey given the GM nature. Look, this is not how we have to produce oil anymore. And nobody wants to be doing this sort of thing to the planet. Welcome to the next oil boom.
Great presentation, and I did see Brucey from Vanderfield's eyes light up when you showed that diesel thing, mate. Brucey down there in his $200 suit. So well done, mate. So no, that was good. That was really fascinating. I think my biggest question is the team component. So like this is awesome. This is really, really exciting. Totally get there's a lot of scientific, academic and even legal rigour in the startup. What commercialisation, marketing expertise is in the team and what is their track record?
Can you all hear me? Yeah, you can now. Look, it's a good question. We do have the key people who have worked along with New Farm and Go Resources and several other companies over the last decade to bring these sort of crops to market, embedded in this program. And I think it's a really often overlooked thing about GM in particular. There's no shortage of traits out there, right? What there's a shortage of is traits which have been demonstrated in the market, or traits which have had their, not only the concept proved in the lab, but have had their value proved. And so this is not any longer a scientific project. The science has been done, and now it's about what do we have to do to convince, let's say, an ag biotech major, if we wanted to go after a trade sale, what do we have to do to convince them that there is value in this? And the answer is that we've got to stitch the value chain together and go at least part of the way down that deregulation process in order to get there.
So just on that, are you looking to be snapped up by a New Farm or someone like that, or are you actually a startup that's raising cash?
Look, I see it as a two-phase process. The first is going to be doing that demonstration of value for investors and for market, and then the second is either go off for a trade sale or then go to production. And I think it's too early at the moment to be really rigorous around which one of those we're going to do. Yep.
James, thanks. I think this is fantastic, and it's a great opportunity to given the sort of environmental gains that we can have from going down this path, to illustrate that GM can be used for good, not evil. So I guess my question, coming from a cropping background, is what are the crops that you're talking about, and and is there an opportunity for some of the big GM companies to take this on board as that example of using GM for good, not evil?
Yeah, great question. So in terms of what crops have we done it in, we worked initially in tobacco. It was just our lab rat crop, and we've since gone to sorghum, potato, done it in sugarcane. It works in the right sort of crops that we want this sort of trait to be grounded in. And we're quite comfortable about the applicability to different species. In terms of whether it could be snapped up or used by a major ag biotech, we've recently actually got a venture capital investment in this area. There's a new startup in San Diego called Amphora, and this was just announced 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's actually a CSIRO plus Silicon Valley Ganesh Kishore investment, and this is this technology, but limited to the field of animal feed. And I wouldn't, it's up to Amphora what happens with that company, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if it went down that path.
Yeah, I'd probably ask a more general question, and I apologise, I don't really understand a lot about this space, but is it also, so what are some of the challenges and risks that you have in the business that you're foreseeing at the moment? And is there anything in there around the processing does it require any type of special processing, or is it just those types of facilities are already available? Or
it's a very often asked question, actually. How do you get the oil out of the plant? And people are very used to, squeezing oil out of a seed. They're not at all used to squeezing oil out of a leaf, because there's no such thing, not a triglyceride type oil. Now, I was actually really worried about it, and when Ben Leader is in the audience, he's our chemical engineer. He did a few of our first tests, and he found that it actually comes out pretty easily. The leaf is not that tough. And I think if there's going to be a technical challenge, it's probably going to be in that other direction, which is the storage of the material over long periods of time. Seeds are fantastic at storing oil. We do have ways to make leaves as good, but I think we've probably still got a little bit of work to do, to be honest.
Time for one more or no? Yes, quickly. Thanks, James. Lovely pitch. I'm really uncomfortable territory here, so I enjoyed every word of it. The question that the big guys will say to you if you go up and say, buy me out or take me out, is that the cost of them producing a dossier to get regulatory approval in their 67 country markets will be way over 200 million, and the market may not reward that. What's your reaction to that?
We grew and sold $180 billion worth of plant oil last year. This is a massive market.
It's different.
And if you are clever about the way in which you introduce it, there is a space to be played in that food versus fuel, that tricky area where we can choose to make this, say, an industrial oil, whatever happens eventually with food oil. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're all a bit stunned.